This video is brought to you by CatBeast.com. Design your own custom snapbacks and hats.
Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we return to talking about one of the oldest and most overused terms that feminists use to attack men. Manspreading has recently come back into the news this week, and you're never going to guess the reason why. Previously, we talked about manspreading and some other anti-male, social justice warrior, and feminist terms extensively. Manspreading is, of course, pretty close to mansplaining, where both words are used by leftists to attack guys for either sitting or speaking in the wrong ways, at least according to them. They claim men sit too wide and explain things too much, when really, we're just living and existing and talking and taking up space. But that's enough to trigger these kinds of sexist dummies. Next, there's the close relative to manspreading and splaining called toxic masculinity, which kind of includes those two previous terms too, since toxic masculinity is essentially an attack on all men as a whole. Everything we do and how we do it is toxic, according to these kinds of blue-haired, shrill-voiced feminist women who have nothing better to do than to complain about men all day long. They're clearly getting all this from their own sexist, anti-male hatred too, but they mask it with terms and supposed causes. They pretend they're helping and trying to fix men or society or some other bullshit reason. Just imagine, for example, if things were going the other way around here for 1 minute. If men grouped together to complain about women publicly, even coining terms to shame them like, say, woman spreading or toxic femininity, well, that would certainly be considered sexist and anti-female, according to them. In fact, these kinds of SJWs would even go so far as to say women can literally do nothing wrong in this day and age, and they can act and do whatever they want, because it's always right and justified when a woman does it. Now, I'm not asking for us, the men, to get absolutely no accountability like that, but it would be nice if the left and the public at large would at least try and give males some kind of equal treatment. But alas, instead, guys get blamed for everything, and everything we do is wrong, and we're assumed to have ill intentions at all times. Meanwhile, modern women are treated like they're perfect princesses, who can literally do no wrong, even if they're trying to be mean and bigoted and biased, like what we're seeing today. And well, that brings us to today's news story specifically. The whole reason manspreading has come back into the news lately is because there was an award given to an anti-manspreading creator in London. Layla Laurel designed the first anti-manspreading chair, which won some local design awards and everything. And well, needless to say, this has gotten people talking, and it's sparked debate about this whole manspreading issue once again. For more details on this story, let's turn to an article from the Evening Standard called "Anti-Manspreading Chair Wins London Design Award." This should be good. And should we really be surprised this kind of stuff is coming out of London? You know, the woke SJW capital of Europe? Also, just look at this poor schmuck of a man having to sit in that anti-manspreading chair there on the right. Well, at least I think that's a man. He looks pretty similar to the girl on the left, actually, when you think about it. Both look like hipsters with earrings and long hair in buns. And it's kind of sad to see how modern millennials have gotten so genderless nowadays. The men are looking more like women and the women like the men. So now everyone meets in the middle, making everyone look like these androgynous weirdos. Hipster SJW millennial douchebags. Regardless, let's check out some of this article anyway and see what they have to say. Manspreading is the act of a man sitting, especially on public transport, with his legs spread wide apart in a way that means that people next to him have less space, according to the Cambridge English Dictionary. Luckily, for every woman who's ever had to make herself smaller on the tube while sitting between two manspreaders, a British design graduate has come up with a solution. Layla Laurel, a 3D design and craft graduate from the University of Brighton, has designed a pair of triangular chairs she hails as a solution for manspreading. The two chairs encourage men to sit with their legs closed and women to sit with their legs open. Wow. I was wondering why an anti-manspreading chair would have a manspreading model along with it. It's because this artist not only wants men to stop spreading, she also wants women to start spreading as a sort of gender payback for the men taking more room historically. And this is a perfect example of how the goals of feminists like this are not actually based on equality or fairness. Because if they were, they would just be trying to get men to sit less wide, making it so everyone sat more equally and fairly. But that's not the case here. As the next step of this shows, the artist just wants more room for her gender. It's a sort of tribalistic way of claiming more space for females. Wouldn't be so bad either if they were just more honest about their goals up front though, since they do argue and pretend this is being done to make things fair. But as with feminism at large, the goal of anti-manspreading movements is not fairness or equality. They actually want more special treatment, handouts, and space for their side, effectively effectively saying they want men to be treated shittier, as if we're lesser than women. Fortunately though, there is an easy solution to this issue for us guys, especially if you're able to bullshit a little bit and think on your feet like me. All you have to do is say you identify as a female, and then you're instantly no longer manspreading. You're actually claiming space for the female side now, which is encouraged. I mean, sex and gender is whatever you feel like it nowadays, right? That's the idea and pipe dream which these same liberals push and adhere to, so I think it's time we try and use some of their own flawed logic against them. And also, I think this goes without saying at this point, but just to be clear, manspreading is of course total bullshit. It's anti-male rhetoric used by feminists to shame men because they hate us. They hate us because they ain't us. And also, even if you can prove that men do sit somewhat wider than women, which I haven't seen done here, but assuming it's true, that's easily explained by a little thing called science, specifically math and anatomy, with a little common sense sprinkled in there too. As any doctor, scientist, or learned person would tell you, not only are males bigger than females on average, we're also taller, wider, and have stuff between our legs. So while women have a hole between their legs, which makes their closed-legged sitting or leg crossing easier and often more comfortable even, well, men have a twig and berries between our legs, which makes leg crossing uncomfortable and sometimes painful, and it also makes leg spreading more agreeable as well. And let's also not pretend women don't ever spread out and take up too much space in public either. Girls have been known to spread their legs while sitting often too, and also girls can even lay down in seats and all kinds of other stuff. Ever heard of bag spreading? That's the less offensive gender-neutral complaint term, identifying people who put their bags on seats on public transport, taking away room from someone who might need to sit there. And this of course is more often done by women because they tend to carry more bags and purses and stuff while they're out in public. And this offense is arguably worse than manspreading too, since bag spreading is a person who's too lazy or inconsiderate to hold their own bag, so they take a seat away from a person to set their stuff there. Meanwhile, manspreading is just a person taking up their own space. And some feminists claim it's too much space, but that's really more a matter of opinion. My own experiences and the conversations I had with women around me of manspreading inspired me to make these chairs. I was also hugely inspired by Laura Bates's Everyday Sexism Project, where I read about the struggles and frustrations of women around the world pertaining to men infringing on their space. Laurel tells The Standard, "I have made 2 chairs, one for the woman, or those identifying as thus, that encourages the sitter to take up more space, and one for the man that encourages them to take up less, and sit with their legs closed. They are made from sycamore and cherry, and after making several different seat shapes, I eventually settled on this design and made them. The shapes and words mirror each other for some visual continuity between the pair." Well, I have to say, if we're being frank here, and we are, this is my show, and well, the design and execution of these 2 chairs is not very impressive at all. These look like 2 of the simplest and least effort models I've ever seen, and I don't even think these chairs have real actual backs on them as far as I can tell. Kinda just makes them stools, doesn't it? Okay, wait, I saw another picture and they do have these tiny little half backs on there, but still, this is pretty low effort looking to me, and they don't look very comfortable at all. So basically, the way I see it is, this chick couldn't make a cool or impressive chair on her own, so she attached some woke SJW politics to her stupid stools, and she's using the media to get attention from it and to make her look smart and like she's a good woke designer. She's not though, because if she was, she would be making good chairs with nice designs and actual backs to them, and she wouldn't need these politics or virtue signaling to get them popular. And that brings me to more of the why behind this whole story. Why is this bullshit even a story in the news to begin with? Good question, and it has a pretty simple answer too. As I mentioned before, this feminist designer couldn't get attention to her work otherwise, so she made it this anti-male, anti-manspreading thing in order to virtue signal to the public. And afterwards, naturally, the left-leaning SJW media grabbed onto this story too, as expected and intended by the artist originally. Now with the story getting some traction, the papers are now using it to push their own agendas, which line up with this feminist chairmaker perfectly. They all hate men, and they want special treatment and more space for women as well. And ironically enough, their hatred of us has become an obsession for them. Like what's said at the beginning of that last section, this artist is quoted as saying she sits around with her girlfriends talking about and complaining about men. Instead of, being independent and doing your own thing, they obsess with people they supposedly hate, yet they can't stop talking about. Laurel's designs have been a hit. The graduate won the Richard Seeger Award and the Anna Maria Designs Award at her graduate school for her broader project, Feminism in the Third Dimension, as well as winning the Bellman Award for Emerging Designers. The reaction of the people that I spoke to at New Designers and my graduate show, and from those that sat in the chair, has been brilliant and interesting, and people seem to have found them funny and engaging encouraging, which is all I could have hoped for, Laurel said. Although the designer noted that the online world hasn't been as receptive to her designs. The online backlash has been quite unpleasant, and I have received a lot of explicit messages nearly entirely from men who seem to be under the impression I am trying to castrate them, and that I hate all men, which honestly couldn't be further from the truth. Well, if you look like a man-hater and you talk and act like one too, you just might be a man-hater. Sure, you can say you don't hate men here at the end, but everything you're doing, pushing, and promoting before this tells us otherwise. And of course, you're getting a bad reaction on the internet from mostly men too, which makes sense because you're attacking us directly. Wouldn't be so bad either if you just had one anti-manspreading chair here. But then to have another chair along with that is pro-spreading for women, well, that really says a lot. That means this whole idea and the chair campaign, it's not about fairness or equality, as I mentioned before. And it's also not about anti-spreading in public in general, since the other chair is encouraging women to do that. Really, this is about telling men not to spread, and it's about shaming us for sitting comfortably in public, in a natural way that fits our body scheme. So, with all that said, I can't believe this cuckoo bird behind this was even surprised she got this kind of online backlash. She might have even really expected it or wanted it even. She wants attention, and it does seem like this kind of thing is being done to antagonize males specifically and purposely, perhaps because this feminist artist has an axe to grind with us. The judging panel from Bellman, the luxury hotel and leisure company, said Laurel's chair was a bold, purpose-driven design that explores the important role of design in informing space, a person's behavior, and society issues of today. As a part of the prize, Laurel will receive a £1,000 bursary, as well as a commission to design a product for Bellman. Well, obviously these judges and award givers aren't picking their winners based on the actual chair designs, or how comfortable or practical they are. This chick's anti-manspreading chair is so simple, it borders on being lazy and seemingly unfinished. It also looks very uncomfortable and perhaps unstable too. Probably not a chair for anyone who's not a small or medium-sized person. Really, the only reason this whole thing is getting attention at all is because it's anti-male, and the SJWs running the design school, the award shows, and the newspapers, they're all eager to jump on board this sexist and feminist cause. Laurel hopes to continue advocating for gender equality with her future designs. She says, "I'm excited to continue developing my critical design practice and to continue to address social issues, particularly regarding sexism and gender equality from this perspective. I have a few ideas for future projects that I am excited to begin work on, some even stemming from the considerable backlash I have received online after sharing this work." So, in the end, she purposely antagonizes men with her low-effort, anti-male designs and messages. And this is all being done under the false pretense that these kinds of people want equality or fairness, when really they just want more space and special treatment for the women, who are allowed to spread themselves without question. Hell, they're even encouraged to do it. And next, finally, this feminist promises to respond to her detractors, calling their justifiably angry response to this anti-male sexism, well, she's calling it anti-female sexism now. What a joke. And really, at the end of the day, we're not anti-females at all. We're just anti-you and feminists, and we're anti-SJW, anti-male bigotry. What do you guys think? Is manspreading really an issue in 2019? Or is this story really just a byproduct of anti-male hatred coming from feminists? And what do you guys think about these bogus anti-manspreading chairs? Do you think the SJW designer behind them really deserves all these awards and attention? Comment your thoughts on everything below. And thanks for watching No Bullshit. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and before we go, thanks again to Catbeast for sponsoring this video. They're a great company to work with who has some really cool, really fun, and beautiful looking hat designs. Check out their website and support the show by supporting Catbeast. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see y'all next time.